Well, my name is Jessica Jesco Bolden. I am a desk analyst, but you can just call me a talent of many trades if you'd like. And I come from Australia, but I live in Europe. And yeah, I'm just loving esports. I was a player. I was a World Championship coach. I'm now a desk analyst. I've done everything in esports almost. Overall, you think about the world of VCT, of Valorant in a competitive sense at the moment. Obviously, look at Brazil and how much they've grown so quickly. I think APAC is like the year behind Brazil that is Brazil now in 2022. I'm like, we're seeing that. That's coming quick. APAC is going to be the Brazil, and how crazy awesome they are right now. Obviously, the dominant regions of EMEA and NA in most FPSs, we're used to that. We know that FPS is pretty strong in those regions, but I want to see, like, at this event right now in Masters 2022 in Copenhagen, the #1 predominant nationality of the players is Chilean. Chilean. I mean, I don't think that's ever happened at any event in any FPS in the entirety of the world. So this is really international. And what I can say is, whilst NA and EMEA might be the dominant regions, give it a little bit more time. I say Brazil, Latin America and APAC, regardless of the SEA or maybe the northern parts of APAC, I think there'll be a lot more dominance given a few more years. I'm looking forward to that. If you are from Japan and you're watching Valorant, and you were there from the very beginning, you probably don't realize the viewership has skyrocketed over 200% in Japan in 1 year. Now, we're talking about breaking records. I don't think there's been an esport in a region in the world for Valorant that has skyrocketed in 1 year as much as Japanese Valorant has. Now, if Riot's sitting there looking at the numbers all over the world, that has to be the most impressive number that exists ever. And I think that will ever exist. Why? Because we know the Japanese culture of enjoying gaming as a whole, all different types of games, but more in force of the fact that FPS now is becoming much more popular and the viewership is unlike I've seen ever before. Esports in Japan, when I moved there, was all about like MOBA and anything not FPS. So I was like this solo person in the country, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just search. You know, at the time we played Call of Duty, we played a couple of other games, you know, FPS-esque, and you would have to search for a match for like 30 minutes. There were not a lot of people in Japan playing FPS, you know, especially in the early 2012 to 14 to 15, like people weren't really sold on FPS then. I went, that's okay. I would go to the arcade, I would play drum games, I would do all those cool things. I would get involved in the Japanese culture that way. And then recently, and especially when I was in Japan, during the COVID time, I could connect to the Japanese servers if I wanted to. And I thought, you know what, I'll have a little bit of a search there. You get a match in 1 minute, okay. I never used to get a match in 1 minute. What's going on here? So the servers are so much fuller. There's way more games. There's a lot more people excited about the games. 10 years ago, yeah, I couldn't find a game. So I tell you what, the growth in 10 years, and now that Valorant is so big in Japan, FPS will explode. Just partially, obviously with North Eption, I had to identify why we have North and why we don't have Zeta Division. That was obviously part of my job to work out why that is. I think, and again, this does come down to, there's a phrase we use on the analyst desk called Lanimals. And there are some players and some teams that operate as really awesome beasts when it gets to an offline environment, and then some who struggle on LAN. Now, I don't think Zeta struggles on LAN. We know, we saw them in Reykjavik, but I think they underestimate what could be new from an opponent that hasn't been on a LAN environment against them before. And I think that's where I really noticed North stumble at the beginning. They went, oh, we're not really good offline. And then they went, we learned all our mistakes. Now we make them strengths, and Zeta just couldn't deal with that. I think there was just too many mistakes too quickly for Zeta, and North, they just capitalized off those mistakes and made them their own strengths. So I think that last game was that's probably one you look back on if you're a Zeta Division fan like I am, and you say, it's okay to make a mistake, but don't ever do it again. And if you do it next time, hopefully it's because it's the best game you've ever seen in Japan. That's what I really want. How many people watched that?
32.
Oh my goodness. You have almost 30,000 people who are staring at you. And I want to give props to Northampton for being able to survive under that kind of pressure, because that's a lot of people staring at you. I've been in big crowds before, but never like 13,000 people a day clapping and cheering your name or your opponent's name if they're going for Zeta Division. So I think both teams really had to take a lot of this pressure that was all around them from the audience. And as a player, you don't want to let them down. They're your biggest fans, they're your community. That's why you play. All I can say is that is one of the most impressive events in Valorant history that has happened, that might happen, and maybe will be replicated by Japan into the future. And if they keep doing that, I will fly over to Japan and I will sit in the audience every time. If they keep making events as impressive as that, I will go. I will fly there. I have a lot of Hokkaido pride. I got Furano tattooed on my arm.
I've seen that.
You have seen?
Just tweeted earlier.
I did. I wanted everyone to know. I've got big Furano pride. I love snowboarding there. I love being there. I think Hokkaido is just a brilliant region. So when I heard that Northampton was, hailing from the northern parts, I was like, okay, this is something I can get on board with. And then I watched some of the games and I was like, think of explosive. Like, it's like Zeta Division, which can sometimes be a little bit slower. It's like Zeta Division, but on a timer. Like, they've always got to be faster than everyone. They're just explosive in, get that first kill. I mean, some of the plays that I've seen Meteor do, for example, there are some good players on that roster. One day when I can read Japanese again, which I could a little bit as a kid, so there was once upon a time, one day when I can do it again, I can talk and hopefully engage more with the community who's given me so much love. In the past 6 months, the Japanese community has been unreal to me, really loving, really welcoming, not gatekeeping at all. They've just taken me straight in, and that's a feeling you don't get with a lot of communities. You're an outsider usually, but with the Japanese community, I'm right there beside them cheering. To all the Japanese VCT community members, fans, players, support staff, and lovers of Valorant, let me tell you this. You have one of the best regions in the world, and don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. One day, you'll be champions, and I'll be right there clapping for you.